In 1996, rain poured hard over a small, government-run hospital deep in the countryside. The power had flickered on and off all night. Inside the dimly lit delivery room, Nurse Miriam stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock. The newborn in front of her looked healthy, pink skin, steady heartbeat, 10 fingers, 10 toes. But when they drew blood for routine tests, something went wrong. The machine beeped twice, then stopped. She tried again, then with a second sample. Still nothing. The lab screen flashed a message she had never seen before. No DNA detected. Retest immediately. Her hands trembled. A chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold air. She called the doctor, who dismissed it as a machine error. But when the results came back the same a third time, silence fell across the room like a heavy fog. By midnight, the doctor made a quiet phone call from a secure line in his office. He didn't tell anyone what he said. At 2:00 a.m., a black, unmarked government van arrived through the back gates. 4 men in dark suits walked into the hospital without speaking to anyone. They entered the maternity ward, asked for the baby, and left through the same back door without explanation. The nurses were ordered not to speak. Miriam was told she'd be reassigned to another facility the next morning. The doctor disappeared within the week. The baby's mother, a young woman named Anissa, woke up later that morning, confused and drowsy. She remembered giving birth but felt like something was missing. When she asked about her child, a cold-faced nurse told her the baby had died during delivery. There were complications, the woman said flatly, eyes avoiding Anissa's. The young mother cried for hours, but no one offered comfort. She was discharged 2 days later, never told the truth. For years, no one mentioned that night again. The hospital records were quietly erased. No photos, no footprints, no birth certificate. To the world, the baby never existed. But he did exist. And he was alive. Inside a hidden government facility hundreds of miles away, the child was placed in isolation. He had no name, only a code, subject 0. No visitors, no windows, just white walls, constant observation, and weekly tests. Doctors tried everything: genetic sequencing, bone scans, psychological assessments, but nothing worked the way it should. The child didn't speak, didn't cry. His eyes always watched, always alert. But when they tried to draw blood again, the machine still gave the same result. No DNA detected. Over the next 20 years, the world moved on. Technology grew. Wars came and went. But inside that lab, Subject 0 stayed the same. Never sick, never aging, never changing. New researchers joined the program every few years. Each one told different lies about who he was and why he mattered. But none stayed long. Then in 2016, everything changed. On a quiet evening, a hacker known only as Code Viper broke into a forgotten government server. He was looking for surveillance files to sell to news outlets. But what he found instead was something that chilled him to his bones: a folder titled Project Null, Classified Level 10. Inside were documents, medical scans, and video, footage of a boy in a white room, unaging, unnamed, watching the camera with hollow eyes. At the end of the file was a redacted memo with a single line not covered in black ink. Subject 0 is still alive. Code Viper uploaded a portion of the file to a dark web server and shared it with one message: the boy with no DNA exists, and he's watching. The internet reacted fast. Some called it a hoax. Others claimed it was a secret clone experiment. But one person who saw the footage recognized something no one else could. Anissa, now in her 40s, stared at the boy's face on the screen. Her heart stopped. She whispered through shaking lips, "That's my son." And somewhere, in a cold underground room, Subject 0 looked directly at the surveillance camera, smiled for the first time, and whispered back, "I remember you." Deep underground, far from any city or signal, Subject 0 lived in a room with no windows and no sound. The walls were white, the lights always on, and there was no clock, only a camera in the corner blinking red. For 20 years, the boy had never spoken. He didn't cry, he didn't laugh. But he watched everything. His eyes followed every guard, every doctor, every movement. He didn't sleep like normal people. His breathing never changed. And no, one could explain it. His name was never spoken. He was just the boy, or Subject Zero, and only the most trusted agents were allowed near him. Scientists in white coats entered his room with metal tools and cold hands. They tried to scan his body. They took samples: hair, nails, blood. But every test returned the same strange answer. No data, no match, unknown biology. His body didn't carry human DNA. It didn't carry any DNA. His cells behaved differently. They repaired too fast. They didn't age. They resisted every virus. Every wound healed in seconds. Some researchers whispered that he wasn't human. Over the years, most staff who worked near Subject Zero asked to be transferred. Some had mental breakdowns. Others had the same dream every night. A white room, blinking red lights, and the boy standing silently beside their bed, staring. The dream always ended the same way, with the boy whispering something they could never remember once they woke. The government never released information about Project Null. The facility was erased from official maps. Even the guards didn't know where they were. They were flown in blindfolded and left in isolated living quarters. No one had access to outside communication. No phones, no emails. Only one-way messages from a secure terminal, and those were monitored. Then came Dr. Lena Morris. A brilliant neurobiologist, she was recruited in secret. She had worked on brainwave mapping, studying psychic trauma in children. When she was offered a large bonus to join a special military research team, she said yes without asking too many questions. When she arrived at the facility, they took her ID, her phone, even her wedding ring. She was told only one thing: observe the subject, never interact. But from the first day she saw Subject Zero, Lena felt something wrong. The boy sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the wall. He didn't blink often. He never seemed to eat. Electrodes were taped to his head, but the data on the monitor flickered and vanished like static. When Lena approached the glass that separated her from him, the boy turned his head slowly. His eyes met hers. She gasped and stepped back. His gaze was too sharp, too knowing. It didn't feel like he was seeing her face. It felt like he was reading her thoughts. That night, her computer glitched. Files disappeared. Emails she hadn't opened flashed on her screen for seconds, then vanished. Her lab reports on Subject Zero showed different numbers every time she opened them. She told her supervisor, but he brushed it off. It happens sometimes. The subject interferes with nearby systems. Ignore it. But she couldn't ignore it. One day, Lena stayed late studying a series of brain scans. The scans showed intense energy activity in the subject's brain, far beyond any human level. Then, as she sipped her coffee, the power flickered. The lights dimmed. Her computer shut off. Behind her, a low humming noise began. The sound came from the observation room. When Lena walked to the glass window, her heart dropped. The boy was standing, something he never did unless instructed. He faced the camera. His lips moved. No sound came through, but she saw the words clearly. "Why did you come here?" She stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. Her ID card fell to the floor. Alarms didn't sound. Security didn't move. It was like the whole building had stopped. The next day, Lena tried to report what she saw. The project director told her she was under stress. He gave her sleeping pills and suggested she take a short break. But Lena wasn't imagining it. That same day, she found a hand-drawn symbol on the wall of Subject Zero's room, circles inside circles with tiny lines connecting them. He had never been given pens or pencils, no paint, no markers. And yet, the symbol was there. It wasn't drawn, in ink. It was burned into the wall. Lena took photos with a hidden camera in her jacket. When she returned to her quarters, she tried to open the files, but they were corrupted. Her laptop overheated. Her bed started to shake. The air felt thick, like something heavy pressed against her lungs. That night, Lena dreamed of the boy in the dream. She stood inside the white room. He looked up at her and said, "You know the truth, but you're afraid to say it." She woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The next morning, the director was gone. No one would say where he went. Another staff member was found sitting in the hallway, eyes open, completely silent, not moving. He remained like that for 2 days. Lena had seen enough. She decided to escape. But before she could act, the power went out again. This time, not just for a few seconds. The emergency lights didn't turn on. All doors unlocked at once. Sirens stayed silent. Cameras stopped blinking. She ran to the observation room expecting chaos. Instead, the boy was gone. Only the symbol remained, now glowing faintly on the wall. Far above the earth, across the deep layers of government silence, a single message uploaded itself to a dark server. The file was titled, Subject Zero, Still Alive. The news about Subject Zero didn't hit the mainstream media, but it spread like wildfire through secret forums, conspiracy chats, and underground sites. People were scared. Some thought it was fake, a creepy internet story meant to scare children. But others believed. A few even claimed they had seen the boy, glimpses of a pale figure in forests, flickering in and out of view like a ghost. But no one could prove anything. The government denied everything. They called the leaked file a digital hoax and started deleting every copy they found. But it was too late. The file had already been shared thousands of times. People had printed it, backed it up, and even painted the strange glowing symbol on walls in abandoned cities. They called it the Mark of Zero. In a quiet corner of the facility, now almost empty, Dr. Lena Morris sat alone. The lab was still running, but many staff had left without notice. Some just walked out and never returned. Others had mental breakdowns. 2 had gone missing, but Lena stayed. She knew too much now to turn away. She couldn't stop thinking about what the boy said in her dream. You know the truth, but you're afraid to say it. What was the truth? She started going through old classified files, ones not stored digitally, paper records, sealed boxes. Hidden in one file labeled Null Origin Restricted, she found something terrifying. The boy hadn't been born naturally. He had been created. Lena's hands shook as she read the documents. They were from 1993, 3 years before the birth. The project was called Genesis Null. It described an attempt to grow a biological intelligence from modified stem cells, cells designed to not follow normal human rules. No DNA, no mutation, just pure regenerative code. The purpose: create a body immune to all diseases, age, and damage, a perfect body for a weapon. But something went wrong. The embryo grew too fast. It absorbed energy from every machine around it. Scanners failed, lights dimmed, and when it reached full development, it opened its eyes. Not as a baby, but as something that understood fear, even inside the womb. They tried to terminate it. They failed. So they lied. They changed the reports. They told the government it was a failed experiment, but in secret they implanted the growing child into a woman, Anissa, a poor volunteer from a rural village who was told it was part of a fertility trial. Lena closed the file slowly. Her throat was dry. They didn't just find this boy, they built him and then locked him away. She left the file room in a daze. As she turned the hallway corner, the lights above her began to flicker. A cold wind brushed her skin inside the sealed underground facility. She stopped. Ahead of her, at the far end of the hallway, someone was standing. A tall figure, pale, barefoot, head slightly tilted, her breath caught in her throat. It was him, Subject Zero, but he was supposed to be gone. The system said he had escaped 2 days ago. Doors had been found open, cameras dead. His room was empty. He shouldn't be here. But there he stood, looking directly at her. She didn't run. Couldn't move. Her legs froze. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. The boy raised one hand and pointed at her chest. Then he spoke. "I forgive you." His voice was calm, too calm. It echoed in her mind more than in the air. The hallway lights burst in a flash. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. Lena collapsed to the floor, unconscious. She woke up hours later in the infirmary. A medic asked what happened, but she couldn't speak. When she tried to explain, her voice cracked. Her memories were fuzzy, but one thing remained clear. She had seen him, and he had spoken. Security footage? Gone. The hallway camera had melted. Literally. The wires were fused, the walls were scorched, but there was no fire. That night, Lena accessed the last system still working, the old brainwave monitor logs. She scanned through hundreds of hours of brain activity recorded from Subject Zero over the years. And that's when she noticed something horrifying. The wave patterns matched human emotion. Not emotionless like they always claimed. They matched fear. Not his fear, but others. Subject Zero had been silently reacting for years, not to pain, not to commands, but to the fear of those around him. And every time fear rose, so did his brain activity. Lena realized the truth. He wasn't just built without DNA. He was built to sense fear and feed off it. That's why people saw dreams. That's why electronics failed near him. That's why no one could control him. He wasn't empty. He was evolving. Outside the facility, miles away, a signal quietly activated in a secure satellite dish. A backup protocol. The government had planned for this, and now that he was out, they were going to use the one thing left that could stop him, Protocol Black Mirror. But deep inside the forest under moonlight, Subject Zero stood in front of an abandoned cabin. He wasn't hiding, he was waiting, and his eyes were glowing. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. No birds, no wind, no sounds of life. Subject Zero stood still in front of the old wooden cabin. The place had been abandoned for decades. Rotting walls, broken windows, vines curling through cracks in the wood. Yet something about it felt familiar to him, like a memory not fully his. Inside the cabin, dust floated in the air like fog. Old furniture sat untouched. A small fireplace was crumbling. He stepped in slowly. No noise came from his bare feet on the wooden floor. He looked around the room as if searching for something, or someone. Then he stopped in front of a faded picture frame nailed to the wall. The photo showed a woman holding a baby. Her face was blurry, but her eyes were familiar. Subject Zero stared at it without blinking. Behind him, a twig snapped. He turned. A man in military gear stepped out of the trees, gun raised. "Down on the ground now!" he shouted. Subject Zero didn't move. The soldier's eyes widened. "I said—" He didn't finish. The gun jammed. The soldier tried to fire again, but sparks flew from the weapon. It fell apart in his hands like it had rusted instantly. He looked up in shock. Subject Zero raised one hand, palm open, his eyes locked with the soldier's. A cold feeling washed over the man, a deep, choking fear, like drowning without water. His knees buckled. He dropped to the ground, shaking. Subject Zero turned back to the photo. More soldiers arrived. 6. All heavily armed. Drones flew above, red lights blinking. They surrounded the cabin silently. In an underground command room miles away, government agents watched the live feed from the drones. Lena Morris was there too, standing beside General Stroud, the man now in charge of Project Null. Stroud spoke calmly. "Begin Protocol Black Mirror." A technician typed fast. "Target locked. Neural disruptor charging." Lena turned to him. "You're going to kill him?" Stroud didn't look at her. "He's not a boy. He's a biological threat." "He hasn't hurt anyone," Lena said. "Not yet," Stroud replied. "But we know what he can do. And he's growing stronger." She stared at the screen. The image showed Subject Zero standing inside the cabin, calm, silent. Another technician spoke, nervous. "Ma'am, neural readings just spiked." Stroud raised an eyebrow. He knows. Lena's heart sank. You're making a mistake. But it was too late. From the drones above, a thin blue beam shot down at the cabin roof, targeted to hit Subject Zero directly. It was designed to overload his brain, collapse his nervous system, and shut him down permanently. The moment the beam touched the cabin, it vanished. Gone. The whole cabin. Gone in an instant. The feed went black. Every drone lost signal. A wave of static hit the monitors. Lights in the command center blinked and burst. Emergency sirens howled. Technicians fell from their chairs, covering their ears as high-pitched tones screamed through the air. Lena clutched the edge of the table. What happened? Stroud yelled. Shut it down. Kill all power. The room went dark. For 10 full seconds, no one moved. Then a screen turned on by itself. Static flickered, then cleared. It showed a live camera feed from inside the facility. The camera angle was looking into the control room. Everyone froze, and then a voice came through the speakers. Not loud, not angry, just soft and steady. You tried to erase me. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. The screen glitched. A new symbol appeared, glowing faintly in red. A more complex version of the mark of zero. Circles, triangles, and one word underlined in a language they didn't recognize. Then the feed cut out again. In the silence that followed, Stroud's voice broke. Where is he? No one answered. But somewhere outside in a different town, a child woke up screaming. The same dream. White walls, red camera, and a voice saying, Do you remember? Dozens of children around the country had the same nightmare that night. Subject Zero was no longer just escaping. He was connecting, reaching. And inside Lena's laptop, which had been shut down for days, a single file appeared. No one opened it, but its name glowed on the screen. I am not alone. 3 days passed. Not a single camera could locate Subject Zero. The facility went into lockdown. Government agents searched towns, hospitals, and orphanages across the region. Satellite scans showed strange signals, power surges, blackouts, phone, lines going dead, but no visual confirmation. It was like he was moving without leaving footprints. But Lena Morris had a different plan. She sat alone in her dark apartment, the curtains drawn, lights off. She hadn't slept. Her laptop sat open in front of her, the file titled, I Am Not Alone, still glowing faintly. She hesitated, then clicked. The screen didn't open a video or document. It showed one sentence. Ask the boy in your building. Lena's heart jumped. She lived alone on the top floor. No children, no families. But in the apartment below hers, someone had recently moved in. A young woman. Quiet. Always kept the curtains closed. Never used the elevator. And sometimes, Lena had heard a child's voice, soft, repeating the same phrase. I see the sky. I see the sky. I see the sky. She never thought much of it. Until now. Lena stood up slowly, grabbed her flashlight, and walked down one floor. Her hand shook as she knocked on the door. No answer. She knocked again. Hello? I'm your upstairs neighbor. Sorry to bother. The door opened, just a crack. The young woman stood there, pale, tired eyes. She looked at Lena for a long time, then said quietly, You were in the facility, weren't you? Lena froze. What? You worked with him, with the boy. Lena nodded slowly. Is he here? The woman didn't answer. Instead, she stepped aside. Inside, the small apartment was dark. A candle burned on a low table, and sitting in the corner, cross-legged, was a child. He looked around 10 years old, eyes too sharp. Still, watching. Lena stepped in carefully. You're Subject Zero? The boy looked up at her. No, he said quietly. That name was given to me. I never chose it. She sat down slowly, her knees weak. What should I call you? He paused. I don't remember. But I had a name. Once. Lena looked at the woman. Who are you? She replied. I was part of the Genesis program, one of the original test mothers. They told me the baby died. But he didn't. He came back to find me. Lena's voice shook. And now, what? The boy finally spoke again. The others are waking up. Lena blinked. Others? There were more, the woman whispered. Genesis didn't stop with one child. They created many. Most were failures, or so we thought. The boy interrupted. They're not dead. They were sleeping. But the signal woke them. What signal? The one you tried to use to kill me, the boy said softly. The Black Mirror pulse. Lena's breath caught. She had helped set that up. The neural disruptor. The signal that destroyed the cabin. It didn't kill you? No, the boy said. It woke the hive. He stood up slowly. The candlelight flickered across his face. We were meant to be weapons, but you buried us, locked us away. Now we remember. Suddenly, Lena's phone vibrated. A message flashed across the screen. Nationwide alert. System blackout in progress. Unknown cause. Do not travel. She looked at the boy. It's beginning, isn't it? He nodded. The others are coming. Some want peace, some don't. Lena whispered. Can I stop it? The boy turned to her. Only if you find the original code. The what? The source code. The first file used to grow me. It's hidden in the place where I was born. That hospital no longer exists. But the underground lab beneath it still does. Suddenly, the candle flickered hard, then went out. The room fell into darkness. From outside the window, a distant sound echoed, a chorus of whispers. Hundreds of voices. Lena ran to the window, across. The city lights were going out, block by block. Cell towers shut down. Cars stalled. Planes veered off course in the sky, and far off, above the skyline, a single glowing symbol appeared, burned into the clouds. The mark of 0. Lena turned back, but the boy was gone. The door was open. On the table. One sentence had been burned into the wood. You started this. Now finish it. Lena drove fast. The roads were empty. Streetlights were out. Every radio station played only static. Her phone was dead. The city felt like it had lost its heartbeat. She followed the old highway signs toward the town where Subject 0 had been born, Windmere. It no longer existed on maps. It had been evacuated due to flood risk 20 years ago, but Lena now knew the truth. The government buried the town to hide what lay beneath it. She stopped near a broken fence. A rusted sign read, No entry, biohazard zone, but the air was clear. No gas, no smell, just silence. She walked through the empty town. Trees had grown through old houses. Streets were cracked. Wild vines wrapped around lamp poles. It felt like time had forgotten this place. But Lena remembered the hospital. She found the ruins of the old Windmere Medical Center. Roof collapsed. Doors rusted shut. She climbed in through a side window, flashlight in hand. The inside was cold. Dust floated through the air. Old wheelchairs and stretchers lay tipped over. Broken glass crunched under her boots. She stepped over an old medical chart with the name Anissa H. written on it. That was his mother. Her heart pounded harder. She remembered the boy's words. The source code is hidden beneath the place I was born. Lena found the old maternity ward. Everything was dark, except for one hallway. A soft red light glowed at the far end. She followed it. There, behind a cracked wall, was a hidden elevator shaft. The doors were jammed. She pried them open and climbed down the rusted ladder into darkness. Durchsteig. Descent took forever. The lower she went, the warmer the air became, like the underground was breathing. At the bottom, she found herself standing in front of a steel door with no handle. Just a scanner. But before she could panic, a voice echoed through the corridor. You're late. She turned sharply. Subject 0 stood behind her, barefoot, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. You followed me? No, he said. I was already here. The scanner next to the door lit up. He placed his hand against it. The door slid, open with a deep metallic groan. Inside was the original Genesis lab. Dust-covered machines, broken monitors, walls filled with ancient equations and genetic diagrams. But one pod in the center of the room still glowed. Inside it, sealed in liquid, was a hard drive. Lena stepped forward. That's it? The source code? The boy nodded. She carefully removed the drive. It felt ice cold in her hand. What do I do with it? She asked. The boy looked at her with strange sadness. You destroy it. Lena blinked. What? But this could help us fix everything. No, he said. That code doesn't just build bodies like mine. It builds minds. And now, it's waking them. He turned slowly toward the wall. A screen came to life by itself, displaying dozens of glowing dots across a map of the world. All the test children, some awake, some still sleeping. But they all feel what I feel, and not all of them are like me. What do you mean? She whispered. They were changed, by pain, by isolation, by fear, and now they're angry. Lena stared at the map. One red dot blinked faster than the others. What's that location? The boy looked at her. That's where Subject 3 woke up. And? She asked. He didn't answer. Suddenly the entire room shook. The ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. A low rumble echoed through the lab. On the screen, one red dot turned black. Too late, the boy said. A second rumble followed. Alarms lit up. Seismic activity detected. Subsurface breach. The boy turned toward her. He's coming. Who? Subject 3. A blast rocked the tunnel behind them. Part of the elevator shaft collapsed. Fire and smoke poured in. Lena looked at the hard drive. If I destroy this, will it stop him? No, the boy said. But it might stop the others from joining him. Lena looked around for something, anything, to destroy the drive. But the machines were too old. Nothing worked. Suddenly, Subject 0 stepped forward and took the drive from her hands. I'll do it, he said quietly. But I'll need time. Time for what? Lena asked, to hold him back. The steel door slammed shut between them before she could answer. Wait, she screamed, banging on the door. His voice echoed through the speaker. Find Subject 5. She's the only one who can stop this now. Lena backed away as flames crept into the hallway. She ran. Behind her, the lab began to glow white-hot. DD, hard drive, was melting. And somewhere far away, in a crowded subway in Tokyo, a girl looked up suddenly, eyes glowing white. She whispered to no one, I remember everything. Lena ran for her life. The underground tunnel behind her collapsed in flames. Smoke filled her lungs. Every step felt heavy, but she kept moving. Up the shaft, back through the ruined hospital, and into the dead streets of Windmere. The hard drive was gone. Subject 0 had destroyed it, but now Subject 3 was awake, and somewhere out there, Subject 5, Lena didn't know where to go. She barely knew what Subject 5 even was, just a number. But Subject 0 said she was the only one who could stop what was coming. She reached her car, hands shaking. It barely started. The roads were covered, in dust and fallen trees. Her GPS didn't work, cell towers were dead. The whole region was sinking into silence. Suddenly, her car radio switched on by itself. A voice, soft, female, maybe 13 or 14 years old, came through the static. I hear, you, Lena. She froze. The voice continued. He's close. Subject 3 is coming for you. Lena gripped the wheel. Who are you? I'm 5, and I'm scared. The voice trembled. He's not like the others. He doesn't want peace. He wants to become everything. Lena shouted, Where are you? Static. Then coordinates flashed across the broken radio screen. It was a location in Alaska. Lena stared in shock. That's thousands of miles away, but the voice was gone. She looked up and screamed. Something stood in the middle of the road. Tall. Inhuman. It looked like a boy, maybe 15, but his skin was gray, his eyes pure black. His arms were too long, his face expressionless. Subject 3. She threw the car in reverse, but it stalled. The figure stepped closer. The road under his feet cracked and rotted. Trees nearby withered. Her windshield fogged from the inside. The air felt cold and dead. Then he spoke. Not with his mouth. In her mind. You helped create me. Lena shook her head. No, I didn't. You were part of the machine that buried us. He raised one hand. The car doors locked. She couldn't breathe. Suddenly, bang! A blast hit the side of the road. Smoke and dust flew into the air. A van skidded to a stop beside her. A man jumped out wearing a gas mask and black coat. Get in, he shouted. Lena didn't think. She leapt out of the car and dove into the van. The man hit the gas hard. As they sped away, Lena looked back. Subject 3 just stood there, unmoving, watching. The man handed her a headset. Name's Grant. I used to work inside Echo. You don't know me, but I've been tracking them for years. You just made him very interested in you. Lena panted. You know about Subject 3? I know more than I want to, he said grimly. That thing isn't just a failed child, he's the backup system. A fail-safe with no limiters, no feelings, no fear. He said I helped create him. Grant didn't answer, just drove faster, after. Hours on the road, they reached an old airport hangar. Inside, a small private plane sat waiting. Grant handed her a backpack. Inside is an old device. It was made to track Genesis energy patterns. Subject 5 emits a unique one. Soft, rhythmic, not like the others. Follow it. Find her. Lena paused. Are you coming? Grant looked away. I've seen what happens when people get close to Subject 5. I'll slow you down. Suddenly, a screen near the hangar doors lit up. Camera feed. It showed Subject 3. He was now in a city. A crowd had gathered around him. People curious. Then, all at once, they collapsed. Everyone. The camera. Grant looked at Lena. You don't have time. She boarded the plane, heart pounding. The pilot was silent. The sky outside was darkening, not with clouds, but with static. Halfway into the flight, her headset buzzed. It was the same voice again. Subject 5. You're getting closer. But so is he. Tell me what to do. Lena whispered. You have to choose between saving me or saving the world. Lena's blood turned cold. Why can't I do both? No answer. Outside the window, she saw something moving in the clouds like smoke with a mind of its own. Subject 3 was flying now. The plane touched down on a frozen runway in the middle of nowhere. Alaska. Snow blew sideways in sharp wind. Lena stepped out, boots crunching on the icy ground. The tracker in her backpack beeped softly, faster now. Subject 5 was near. She followed the signal through a frozen forest. The trees were thin, branches like claws. The world felt silent, like it was holding its breath. Finally, Lena saw a cabin, old, wooden, quiet. She approached carefully, each step heavier than the last. As she reached the door, it creaked open before she could knock. A girl stood there. No, older than 13, pale skin, long dark hair. Her eyes shimmered, not glowing, but reflecting every bit of light, like polished mirrors. You found me, she said quietly. Subject 5? Lena asked. The girl nodded. You don't look like the others. That's because I never left this place, she said. They built me to feel everything, so they kept me here far from the others. If I had been near them, I might have died. Lena stepped inside the cabin. It was warm. Fire burned in a small stove. A blanket was folded neatly on the couch. Sound normal, Lena whispered. The girl smiled. I'm not, but I want to be. Lena sat across from her. Subject 3 is coming. He's changing the world. People are dying. The girl nodded slowly. I know. I feel them go. What do we do? Lena asked. How do we stop him? The girl looked at her hands. You don't. I do. Lena blinked. How? I'm the anchor, the balance they never wanted. I wasn't made to fight. I was made to feel. If I connect to him, maybe I can remind him who he was, who we were. Is that safe? No, she whispered. It will either bring him back or burn us both. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A shadow passed over the cabin. Subject 3 had arrived. The roof split open like paper. Wind and snow crashed inside. He hovered above them, taller now, his form shifting like smoke and flesh at once. His face was barely human. He reached for Lena, but Subject 5 stepped in front of her. Hello, brother, she said. Subject 3 paused. His shape wavered. The room shook with pressure. A low hum vibrated through the air. He didn't speak. He just stared at her. Subject 5 raised her hand. I remember you, she said softly. We were in the same pod once. You cried in your sleep. I heard you. Something inside Subject 3 cracked. His face twisted, not in rage, but confusion. I'm still here, she whispered. And I forgive you. The light in the room changed. Subject 3 screamed, not in anger, but in pain. A shockwave exploded from him, knocking Lena backward. The girl reached for him and touched his face. He collapsed. Dark smoke poured out of him and vanished into the sky. His body hit the floor, no longer a monster, just a boy, maybe 15. Still. Breathing, Lena crawled toward them. You did it. You stopped him. But Subject 5 looked pale. Her lips trembled. Her nose was bleeding. He gave me everything, she said faintly. The pain, the memories. I took it so he could be free. Can I help? Lena asked, grabbing her hand. The girl shook her head slowly. I'm not made to last long. They said my feelings would burn me alive. I guess they were right. Her eyes filled with tears. Promise me something. Lena nodded, tears falling. Don't let them build us again. Don't let the world make weapons from children. I promise. The girl smiled and closed her eyes. Subject 5 was gone. Lena sat there, holding her hand in the cold. Later, she buried the girl beside the cabin. Subject 3 woke up hours later. Confused, scared. He remembered nothing after the lab. Lena didn't tell him. She simply said, You had a sister, and she saved you. They left Alaska together. The world slowly healed. Power came back. People woke up. The government denied everything. But Lena knew the truth. She told the story. She shared the names. And then she disappeared. Some say she protects the remaining Genesis children, helping them stay hidden. Some say Subject 0 never died, in the lab, that he watches from the shadows. But one thing is certain. The girl who was made to feel saved the world with her heart.